And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 39 of the Dawg Talk Podcast. Back here alongside my co-host, Dan Kiley. Dan, how is it going for you on this Monday evening?
It is going well. I'm excited to be back. I know that we had a week off. I'm sorry for that, guys, but old Harrison had to go on vacation, had to be special. But I hope you're refreshed and ready to go. We've got some stuff to talk to, some stuff, some of it's kind of old news, some of it's new news, maybe some fresh takes you haven't heard before. Or hopefully we'll have a great show, and I'm just glad to be back.
Heck yeah, man. Sorry about that, guys. It was I had to take a trip with the family, go down to Atlanta to spend some time there, see some family. Didn't like the car trip there. It's about 8 hours from where I am. So not the funnest of car rides, but I'm glad to be back. And we're going to get right into it, guys. I know we're a week behind everyone else, and everyone else has already talked about it. So why not take the opportunity to talk about it ourselves? Dan, we had G-Day a week ago. And my God, I'm just shocked. A week's already flown by since G-Day. We don't have football for a while now. So Dan, let's get right into it. Just give us a little recap. I mean, give us your opening thoughts on what you saw on the field in Athens, this past weekend. 2 weekends ago, actually.
Well, for me, I tend to watch the offense more. I'm more of an offensive person. I'm more of driven that way. And, it's hard. It's hard for a G-Day game or, any scrimmage, depending on the teams playing. You want to see the offense do well, because if the defense just goes out there and dominate, you may have a very good defense, but at the same time, what does that say about your offense, right? So I want to see the offense do well. We did see that the defense played very vanilla. I don't know that they blitzed all that much, if at all. It just kind of played back and just tried to stay healthy, really, defensively. Some of the younger guys got some run, to do some good things, but overall for me, like I said, I was going in to watch the offense. I wanted to see what they were able to do. We were down a lot of offensive weapons for the spring, so it gave some guys an opportunity to really put their name, out there and put their stamp on their position. And I thought, Oscar Delp, for one, did that. He really showed out. And Eric Gilbert. And it is Eric, by the way. He said it was Eric. So the Eric stuff is over for me. The kid himself said it's Eric, so it's Eric. He had a hell of a game. And it was really good to see. A couple of weeks ago, you had mentioned that he hadn't played a football game since the shoe throwing game. And that blew my mind that the guy hasn't played in that long. He is going to be an absolute stud in this offense. And that's not to mention the fact that Brock Bowers didn't even play, and he's probably the best tight end in football right now. So that room is completely loaded. Probably, not probably. That is the most loaded individual room in the entire United States of America. I don't think there's an NFL room that has a group of better tight ends. They may have one tight end that's better, but they don't have a group of them. That's ridiculous. So for me, that was my initial take. Is I wanted to see the offense do well. They did really well. Your take?
I was just really surprised with. I mean, we spent a little bit, and I think everyone spent a little bit, kind of tempering down expectations for Eric Gilbert and how he was going to play when we first saw him on the field. I mean, because like you said, he hasn't played in a game since 2020. I mean, it may have been November, actually. Late November, early December of 2020. That was the last time Eric Gilbert saw a live action football field in front of a crowd. I came away really impressed with, Carson Beck and the second team unit, obviously to start the game off with that, 60-yard bomb to Arian Smith. Gosh, I can't wait to see that in the fall. I mean, it reminded me so much, very different situations, but it reminded me a lot of watching Stetson Bennett on that fourth down throw against Missouri. I think it was, 4th and 6, and he shot to Arian Smith against Missouri in the back of the end zone. I mean, it just exceptional plays that Arian Smith can create. I mean, obviously in 2020 with JT Daniels at the tail end of that season, was just an explosive play waiting to happen. Receivers really stole the show. And the running backs also kind of made some plays, not in the running game per se, but more in showing their ability as a pass catcher. We saw clips from practices behind closed doors of Kendall Milton showing off some of his pass catching abilities. I believe one of them ended up being a touchdown in one of the hype videos Georgia sent out. We know what Kenny McIntosh can do as a receiver. Obviously go back and watch the 2020 Peach Bowl. So I think the biggest takeaway for me was not so much that, the defense has a major regression. Come on, guys. That's a duh moment. I mean, yeah, you're not going to have a historical defense like you did last year. You're not. You're probably not going to get bailed out in situations like against Florida, where defense really single-handedly turned that game over for the offense. So, Georgia has some dudes. You got two dudes at tight end. You got two more who weren't there. And I think the biggest thing about this spring, the saving grace, if you will, about this spring is, well, that's a lot less hits and a lot less, a lot less damage that is going to be on the shoulders of Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington come fall. Because, look, we've talked about it in the past with Arian Smith, where, you use the spring to kind of callous your body, I think is how our friend Brooks Austin put it. Use it to ramp up the intensity from, going to having no pads to going full speed, full contact come fall. This is going to be a huge spring, huge offseason for Arian Smith. And it's going to be the same way for the guys that missed this spring because they're not going to have as many hits on them. You look at Brock Bowers, that's one of the most, tackled dudes for Georgia last year just because of all the plays he made. So, really good spring. And I'm excited to see what they do come the fall. Dan, real quick, I want to talk, it's the talk of the town. It's going to be the talk of the town for as long as me and you sit here and until the end of the next season. What do you make of the performance of the quarterbacks? You see a lot made when a guy like Carson Beck goes out there, goes 14 of 22, 274 yards against the second team defense. And then you see Stetson Bennett, and really all they key in on is those two interceptions.
Well, before I get to that, I will say I appreciate the way that Kirby handles the spring game. Kirby has the tendency to not be a people person, and he really doesn't like anybody. Like he asks the fans for stuff, but he really doesn't give a lot to the fans. He doesn't really do anything for the fans. But I will say that he has structured the spring game for the fans. So I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude for that, because he allows them to open it up. Between the three quarterbacks, they threw the ball 83 times. And I don't know how many throws Gunner had, one or two, maybe. I'm not really sure. But 83 for the three major quarterbacks. So they were putting the ball in the freaking air. And that's what we all want to see. We want to have fun. And that will show you the receivers that you got. But as far as the quarterbacks go, what did I want to see out of Stetson? Well, one of the things, I don't care about the interceptions in the spring game. He didn't look terrible. Okay. If he looked terrible, then maybe I would be a little bit worried, but we've seen him playing games. The one thing that is always going to be a concern for me with Stetson, and there's nothing he can do to control it, is batted balls down at the line of scrimmage. Okay. We saw 2 or 3 of them, maybe 4 during the scrimmage. He had batted balls down at the line of scrimmage. That is something in his game that he has to work harder at than other quarterbacks because of his limitations, as he has to work to find throwing lanes to be able to complete passes, especially across the middle, okay, or shorter passes. The deeper passes, not so much, right, because you're thrown over the top. It's not a big deal. But the quick intermediate routes, short routes, quick routes, he has to find the proper throwing lane. Now, I don't know, because it's kind of like a pitcher in spring training working on, let's say their changeup's not great, right? But they really want it to be a major pitch for them during the season. They're going to work on it during spring training. It may get beat to hell in the spring training game, but nobody really is worried about that as long as he's working on it. So with Stetson, I really felt like some of the stuff, I don't know if he was necessarily working on stuff or if he just wanted to put on a show for the fans and try to make an exciting play and, had some balls picked off or whatever. I'm not overly concerned about that. So for as far as Stetson goes, that's it. I'm always going to pay attention to the batted down balls at the line of scrimmage to make sure that he's actively working at that. And, of course he's going to do that. Right. But I wanted to see the other guys and see how far they've progressed. Now, everything we heard about Carson Beck last year was amazing, right? He lit the world on fire, looked great. By all accounts, was the second string quarterback, was supposed to start the UAB game. Lord only knows what happens. Rumors are rumors. But I wanted to see him. And he didn't do anything to disappoint me. I thought he looked poised, calm, collected. He was in charge. He took ownership of the huddle. He moved extremely well inside the pocket, opened the game with a bomb down the middle of the field. I mean, everything I saw out of him, I liked. There was nothing I didn't like about him. Does that mean he's going to be a starting quarterback week 1? Absolutely not. Not even no chance in hell. Okay. But what I feel good about is I know that if something were to happen to Stetson, and let's be honest, knock on wood, we've been extremely fortunate with Stetson because he is small. He is not a big guy. He does take hits from time to time. In the Florida game the year before last, he separated his shoulder, right? Or I don't know if he necessarily separated it, but he injured his shoulder, and we didn't have anybody else to play in that football game. Now, imagine if that were to happen again, knock on wood, God forbid, something happens to Stetson and Carson has to come in. You have to feel pretty good knowing that the guy is able to compete at that level. I mean, obviously, game reps be what they will, but you can only be as good as you can be without those game reps, right? I mean, he is as good as you could possibly be with the limitations that have faced him, meaning he hasn't had the game reps. So he looked as good as you could possibly hope for and want. He doesn't look checked out. He looks dialed in. He looks bought in. The guys around him seem to be playing well with him and hard for him. That is a great sign. So as far as Carson goes, extremely happy with what I saw. Now, Brock, the biggest thing with Brock last year was not his arm strength or anything like that. Everybody says the guy could throw rockets. It was, is he absorbing the playbook? Is he reading the defenses properly, making the right reads, getting the ball where it's supposed to go, get it out on time, all that stuff. I thought Brock looked really good. He had the longest run of the day. Granted, he's in the jersey, so who knows? But I thought Brock looked really, really good too. So you have to feel really good that your second string and third team quarterback looked that good. I mean, hell, these other teams have a hard enough time finding one quarterback. And everything that we saw on G-Day would tell you that if any one of those guys had to play in a game, maybe not a national championship game or something like that, right? But if you needed somebody to play a game or a quarter or a half or something, you feel really good about it. So that's a great place to be in, is the University of Georgia. They both looked extremely bought in. And then Gunner, it's not fair to even comment on Gunner because he didn't really get that much opportunity. And there's no reason to, other than, he was there at spring, had an opportunity to work, good for him. But there's no reason to really try to break down what he did or anything like that. He didn't have significant playing time. But I thought all three quarterbacks for what they – like Stetson, again, I guess had the worst day. But who cares? I mean, he made some really nice plays. He did some other things, got in and out. Everybody, as far as I know, stayed healthy. So that's all you can really ask for. So that's my quarterback breakdown. What say you, sir?
I mean, really along the same lines as you said. I mean, Stetson had the quote-unquote worst day out of all of them with the 2 interceptions. But kind of like you said, I mean, he's going to throw some throws that he doesn't normally throw. I mean, you look at Bryce Young. Bryce Young threw a ball in the double coverage, and Jordan Battle made him pay for it. But yet you don't see Bama fans, moaning about him throwing an interception in a spring game. I mean, nobody really cares. The coaches don't really care at the end of the day. They just wanted to see their guys get on the football field and compete, maybe boost some excitement in the fan base. I don't really think they care, to be honest with y'all, about whether the fan base is excited about the season or not, or how they feel. But, it was really refreshing to see Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff on the field. Speaking of Brock Vandagriff, like Dan said, he was a guy that was kind of behind the scenes last year. You didn't see much of him other than the few snaps he took in the UAB game. So, where is he at development-wise? I think we got some of those questions answers. Then again, they're not going to show us all of their deck of cards. And this spring game, we'll probably see more of him against the Kent States of the world, or whoever the next, UAB-type game is on this schedule for Georgia. That's where you'll see Brock Vandagriff. But I think, at the end of the day, you should be excited to see what you got in Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff over the next year. I mean, Stetson Bennett, whether you like him or not, Stetson Bennett's your quarterback at the University of Georgia until further notice. It's going to take, I think Dan said it last week, it's going to take a heck of a downfall from Stetson Bennett to lose that job. Not to mention the guys behind him are going to have a heck of an offseason to overtake him. So, don't be upset because Stetson's your quarterback. The guy just won you a national championship. He showed you that he can get the job done and step up when you need to. I mean, what bigger throw can the guy make on third and or second and 18 to Adonai Mitchell? I mean, what bigger throw can he make to prove you wrong that, hey, in moments when you need him, in the clutch, he can make a play? I mean, everyone forgets he had that quote-unquote fumble the drive before that. I mean, I think Dan would agree with me. I mean, I know me personally, I thought the game was over after that fumble. I thought there was that was going to be the moment, like in the past. That was the there's the mistake. There's what Bama needs to get back into this football game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And he played extremely well down the stretch of that football game. Yeah, I was getting bagged on during the game because I was like, he's playing terrible. And he really kind of did for 3 quarters. He played about as bad as you can play without just being brutal, right? I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
played fairly poorly, but then when it mattered, he played really well, kind of like Trey Young, right? The other night played absolutely terrible for 3 quarters, but the last 5 minutes of the game, he was the superstar you needed, right? So Stetson maybe isn't the most consistent quarterback in the world, but he's one of those guys. And I mean, I know on some of the teams that I played on, and I'm sure everybody listening, you guys had a guy on your team, whatever sport was, where at the most critical moments is when they were absolutely their best. And if it wasn't a high leverage moment, sometimes they kind of checked out or weren't really that great. But if the game was on the line, they were complete ballers. Now you say, you would have to have a tremendous downfall not to be a starting quarterback. Okay, that's one way. All right. The other is don't get hurt, my guy, because Kirby has replaced a hurt quarterback twice now. Jacob Eason was the starting quarterback, got hurt. Jake Fromm went in, won a couple football games. I wouldn't say he was playing amazing, like not insurmountable, right? But Jacob never got another shot, not another shot. Okay. JD gets hurt, sits out. Stetson goes in, has a great game. I'll give Kirby credit. He did trot JT out there one more time, got banged up again. They're like, all right, turn the page. So Stetson. So I'm just saying, if Stetson were to get hurt, again, knock on wood, God forbid, and somebody like Carson goes in there and just lights the world on fire, does Stetson get the job back? That's the only controversy that I would bring up. I'm not trying to say that any of these guys are going to take his job out of the camp, but I'm just saying Kirby's shown us twice now. If a guy gets hurt and the guy who comes in is playing at a high level, he hasn't given the job back yet. So that's the only other way I see it happening.
And really, you look at the two moments where it was most likely for a new quarterback to go in, being the Florida game right before halftime. Really when Stetson threw that first pick, maybe second pick, I can't remember exactly. I think it was the first pick he threw, where many fans started to voice, "Hey, we need to get JT in this football game." And then you skip forward to this championship game, where I can't remember exactly. It may have been the second half, somewhere in the second half, where everyone was saying put JT in the game. And Kirby said, no, I'm going to trot my guy right back out there. So, like Dan says, I mean, really, not only is a tremendous downfall one way to lose a job, but, injury is another way because, like Dan said, JT went down, got his shot to, reestablish himself. And I think thanks in large part to that interception thrown at South Carolina, I think that kind of helped JT keep that job for one more week. But, once he got pulled at the end of that first quarter, the first quarter of that Vanderbilt game, that was it. That was the last time you saw JT Daniels until I think it was the Missouri game where we saw him in garbage time. Basically just managing the offense and trying to kill the clock. So, if you get hurt, for the sake of your career, you don't want that guy playing lights out like Stetson did down the stretch last season for Georgia. So, Stetson's the guy, and as Robert said in the comments, Georgia's about to be dangerous again this year offensively. I mean, you look at the weapons they have. We've already touched on this, guys. Kyrus Jackson, Eric Gilbert, Kenny McIntosh, Oscar Delp, Dominic Blaylock, Arian Smith, Jackson Weeks. Those were just some of the guys that were on the stat sheet last week. I mean, that's not even including Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, Adonai Mitchell. That's just a sample of what Georgia has weapons-wise in the room. But I want to take the conversation defense for a minute before we move on to a new what's the latest with Dan Kiley. Dan, it's hard to judge defense in any preseason game or any spring game, any scrimmage of any sorts. Hard to judge, but I mean, are there any takeaways right off the bat from you about what you did see from the defense?
Like you said, it's very difficult. First of all, that's not really even what you're focused on, right? Because you want to see offense in the game, okay? But I saw a lot of guys getting opportunities, a lot of different people in different spots. I got to see Malachi Starks in the game, which is really cool for me. A guy who knows, Dan Jackson looked like he played pretty well. Ringo was normal Ringo. And then Lassiter didn't get to play. He was held out precautionary. So I guess was it Nyland Green that got the start on the other side? Is that right?
I think of Ringo, I think Nyland Green rotated in with William Poole. I remember seeing William Poole in the other outside corner for a little bit, kind of experimenting with him. I don't think that's where he's going to stay, but I think it was him and Green rotating in over there.
I know that the one comment that we've heard more, from different places, I know Brooks has had it and some other guys had it, is that Nyland Green, extremely, extremely talented, kind of hot and cold. Like he'll do really well on a play or a practice and then kind of have a regression. So hot and cold, right? Hot and cold. And I don't remember him getting picked on really. So I don't remember who the first bomb of the game was to, but because it's been 2 weeks. I'm sorry. I didn't have time to rewatch it today. So I'm trying to recall all this as best as I can. It was fresh in my mind. I could have been much better at it, but
I don't know. I think Eric was the first like big energizing catch, but that wasn't. I think it was like 27 yards. But Aaron Smith was the first true bomb.
But that was against the second string D, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I thought they played pretty well considering. You have to understand it's kind of like a NBA All-Star game where it's geared for the offense, and Kirby's not trying to get guys hurt. And it's your own team on the other side of the line. So, if you're a free safety and you're taking somebody's head off, is that smart? It may be good film or be like, hey, that's a great hit, but that's stupid. You'll get somebody hurt. So, I don't want to say they weren't striking because there was definitely some pads popping, but I don't know that the defense was really out there to just dominate. And I don't know that was ever the intention. So it's very difficult, but I did get to see a lot of different guys. Hey, listen, we got to find linebackers, right? We have guys on the team, but hell, we got to replace 4 of them. So, and they're all going to be drafted in the first, second, or third round of the NFL draft. So we've got defensive guys. Jalen Carter, of course, is going to be great. We already know that. I was interested to see some of the other guys get in there. JDJ led the team in tackles, right? 7 tackles. Some guys had some opportunities, and it's difficult to say if they did great or they didn't because I don't know. I never played defense. I was not a defensive player, so I'm not the guy to ask about the X's and O's of defense. So, from all I could tell, a lot of guys got reps. At the end of the day, every single player was healthy, as far as I know. I didn't hear any injuries reports coming out. That's all I care about is the guys that were starting, that played in the game, all were able to walk home at the end of the day. So spring practice, in my conclusion, spring practice was extremely successful. We got a lot of different guys opportunities of game reps inside of the stadium. I believe they put on a pretty good show for the people who showed up and the people who watched on TV, and everybody was healthy. So with that, we will move on from the G-Day game and move to what's the latest with Dan Kiley. However, I'm rebranding this because I've started to notice it's a trend here. It's not what's the latest with Dan Kiley. It's what is Dan Kiley mad about this week? So we're going to rebrand it, and that's what it's going to be. What am I mad about now? I'll tell you what I'm mad about. I'm mad about Kevin Durant. I'm sick and tired of everybody talking about how he's the greatest player, the best player in the NBA right now, blah, 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 blah. They just got swept by the Boston Celtics, and he didn't do a damn thing to win that series. Chuck was on TV last night. I know I'm going to catch hell for this because there's so many KD supporters. I don't necessarily hate KD, but I'm so sick and tired of everybody saying he's like this great player. He's very, very good. Absolutely. He can do things that other guys can't do. However, he's not the bus driver, as Chuck said. He's the bus rider. And he to get a championship, he went to a 73-win team. My God, they didn't need you, okay? They won 73 games the season before you showed up. They don't need you. You were along for the ride. Now, we were talking about this with a group of friends today. As I pointed out, I was giving them my argument, and they come back with, he was the MVP of the NBA Finals. I'm like, cool. He wasn't the bus driver. That was Stephen Clay's team. He was just there. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying he's not a dominant one. He's not Batman. He's not Superman. He's Robin. He's a damn good Robin, but he's Robin. He's not a leader. And Kyrie, don't even get me started on Kyrie. I mean, the man thinks the earth is flat. He plays in half the games this year because he will. Listen, I do give him props for standing up for what he believes in, holding firm to it. At the end of the day, I think everybody else kind of looks silly, right? Because they let the man sit in the front row of the game, but they won't let him play in the game. Get the hell out of here. That's so stupid. Anyway, Kyrie, shit was easier when you had LeBron, wasn't it, Kyrie? It really was. But you had to get away from him. You wanted to be the alpha. Well, hello, you got your opportunity, and you just got swept by Boston. Enjoy that. I hope you enjoy that. And that takes me to my last thing. What am I angry about? Ben Simmons is a punk. He is the biggest punk I've ever seen in my life. Man just filed a grievance to get paid for his whole salary. Sits out the whole damn season. Trae Young broke this man. He wouldn't shoot in the fourth quarter of a game 7 and got booed out of Philadelphia. He was never going to play in Philadelphia again because he's soft. And they know he's soft, and they don't want him there. Philly is not a soft town. If you're soft, you can't play in Philly. I umpired in Philly. They hate you. They hate you. They hate everybody in Philly. They threw snowballs at Santa Claus, for God's sakes. So, Ben Simmons is a punk. He gets traded. Listen, when I knew he got traded, I was like, all right, he's not going to go play immediately because he has to kind of make it look like he was really hurt so that he doesn't get like in trouble for sitting out, right? So he was going to sit out. And I was like, all right, the last 2 weeks of the season, he's going to play. And then he'll be the third wheel or whatever. And he'll, they needed him. At the end of the day, they freaking needed him. And he sat there and didn't do anything. I don't know how you're his teammate and you don't sit there and call his butt out and filing a grievance for his money. Listen, they're going to put new legislation into the NBA when they redo the collective bargaining agreement. And I guarantee you it's going to be the Ben Simmons rule where you have to play a part of the season or something like that, or have to have a significant injury to get your money. You can't just sit out because you feel like it, or your feelings are hurt because you got booed on your home floor. Grow up, man. I can't stand Ben Simmons. If he never played another game, it would be too soon for me. He's a punk, and if I was his teammate, I don't know how you could be his teammate in good faith and not punch that dude in the face. How are you going to sit there and not play? There ain't nothing wrong with you. There ain't a thing wrong with you, man. Except you got your feelings hurt. All right, I'm done. Feel better.
The one thing I want to add to it, really regarding Ben Simmons, what really got me upset was, and I think Reggie Miller said it best. He has no competitive fire. You put out, I don't know who put out, and this was the big thing with Stephen A. or maybe one of them, the J. Will and Max show on ESPN. They were talking about, whoever put out the tidbit that, it's potential that Ben Simmons comes back for game 4. Whoever did that, I don't know what their narrative was or why they did it. Maybe they were being truthful. Maybe they said, all right, maybe they actually knew. Maybe someone in the net said, all right, Ben Simmons is talking about coming back. They're talking about he's going to be back. So they put it out there. They leaked it out, trying to get some, some excitement in the fan base. Oh, hey, let me go to this game 4, even though we're about to get swept. Let me see Ben Simmons on the court with Kyrie and KD. And then there's also the narrative of, hey, maybe the Nets put that out there to get some heat on Ben Simmons because, maybe they don't want him in town anymore. Or maybe they're calling him out on, not having any competitive fire. So, with Ben Simmons, that's my big deal. You don't put out reports that you're coming back, and then the day that game shows up because you're down 3-0, you say, oh, no, my back hurts. I don't want to play. Not going to say, I'm not – I don't know if the dude's injured. Only he knows that. I didn't see him on the court tonight. They didn't pan over to him with camera on the Celtics Nets game. So I don't know if he was there or not. But I mean, dude, honestly, I can't blame the Nets. They left him at home. I mean, really, he should be nowhere around that basketball team. The last thing they need.
Well, the other one is Zion. I forgot Zion Williamson. So that man, the worst possible scenario in the world for that man is that he went to New Orleans where they have some damn good food, and my man loves to eat. He's 350 pounds, and he can't get himself on the floor. He breaks bones in his feet now because he's so heavy. He can't stay healthy. Man, I thought he was going to be a monster, just a beast, and I wanted him in Atlanta so bad, but my guy just can't stay healthy. So he's the other one where, he's out there doing 360 windmill dunks during pregame, but he can't play. Come on. NBA is not the same NBA I grew up with. So maybe I'm the old guy sitting on my front porch just telling you about how it used to be. I don't know, but it's not the same NBA. Scott, in The Last Dance, Michael Jordan called Scottie Pippen out for not playing in the game. That happened 20-something years ago. He's still pissed off about it. and Ben's sitting there like, he's sitting on the bench. And listen, if I knew that there was a guy who was able to play that could help me win, I am that competitive. I want to win at all costs. I would kick your ass if you were not going to play just because you were being selfish. Like, there's no way I would let that slide. But that's just me.
It's a crazy world we live in. I just know if that happened, in the NFL, like Antonio Brown this year for the Tampa Bay Bucks, he said he was hurt. Apparently, the staff knew that he was playing hurt, and when his number got called to go back in the game, he didn't want to go back in because he was hurt. So Aaron Smith told him, "Get out," and then that whole commotion started, and I don't know if there's a lawsuit for that. I believe I thought I saw something about a lawsuit going on for that. So we'll see with that. But anyways, look at the comparison between what happens in the NFL when someone doesn't want to play and in the NBA when someone doesn't want to play. That's all you need to know. Now, speaking about the NFL, it's a big week. It is a huge week. It is an exciting week if you're a Georgia football fan because you got 15 former Bulldogs, 15 guys you watched last year going to the NFL draft, going to Vegas to hear their name called, hopefully. It's not out of the realm of possibility that 10 out of those 15 guys at the least get their name called. There's people out here saying that 10 could go in the top 60 picks, I'm pretty sure, which would be ridiculous. To put that in perspective, Alabama had 8 in the top 50 a year ago. And we all know how stacked that Alabama team was. Heck, Georgia played that Alabama team in, I believe, week 4 in Tuscaloosa. And, if not for the second half, if the game was only the first and second quarter, Georgia would have won that game. But it's not. It's 4 quarters. But anyways, Dan, we got some bombshells dropping. We talked about it a few weeks ago. Trayvon Walker going number 1. I think both me and you agree. He has the highest ceiling of anyone in this draft. But also, when you compare him to Aiden Hutchinson, obviously Aiden Hutchinson, he for the stats geek, for the guys that love the stat sheet, love looking at the stats. That's how you're a stat scout. Aiden Hutchinson's your pick by far and away. His ceiling's so low. He can go into the league and do exactly what he did last year at Michigan, and I think he gets by. He doesn't need to elevate his game to an exceptionally high level to do what he does, from college to the NFL. With that being said, I think Trayvon Walker could reach heights that not many people are seeing right now. Unless, you're have an open mind and can comprehend the fact that, Georgia also has a potential. Georgia potentially had 5 defensive linemen in that room last year. They're going to be first round picks, maybe 4, if I'm counting correctly. 4. Sorry, guys. Jalen Carter next year, most likely, if all goes well, he's a first round pick. This year, it looks like you're going to have Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis. Sorry, as my Siri pops up on my computer. You're going to have Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and Trayvon Walker go in the first round potentially. You could have 4 defensive linemen go in the first round in the span of 2 years.
But Georgia doesn't put defensive line in the NFL, Harrison. That's what I've been told. So that narrative is gone. That's gone. So, I saw a tweet the other day where some NFL guy who covers it or whatever, said that Aiden Hutchinson was better than both of the Bosa brothers. And like the comment section was everything that you would hope it would be. It was nothing but NFL players going, "You're ridiculous. You're out of your mind. Like that's so insulting." And they were just ripping on that guy about how asinine that comment was. Now, with our guy, Trayvon Walker, one of the comps that I've heard most recently was JJ Watt. They think that Trayvon Walker has the potential to be as dominant as JJ Watt was when he was healthy earlier in his career, how dominant he was, where you could double team him, triple team him, you had to scheme against him, run away from him, all that stuff, and he still wreaked havoc. There are people who think the upside for Trayvon Walker was that high. Our coach, Kirby Smart, came out and he was sick and tired of listening to people bag on his stats when he said the reason his stats are the way they are is because he was part of a team and rotated. He was unselfish. And he said, my guys play for the collective. They buy into what we're asking them to do. That's why his numbers weren't what they were. That's why the guy who went to Florida State, what's his name?
Jermaine Johnson. His stats went up because he was really the only guy, and his snap count was significantly higher. He had the opportunity to do things differently than here at Georgia. Our players, because we have so many good, talented players, they're asked to basically sacrifice. He said, but go put on the tape. Look at him when he's in the game. He makes plays in the game, but he also has the ability to do exactly what I ask him to do, play assignment football, and then make plays when they're available to make plays. And he did. He made plays every time they were there. Now, in an NFL system, he might be able to run a little bit wild and be able to do some different things. I think the upside for him, Trayvon Walker, is extremely high. I don't know if JJ Watt, I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but to even consider that he has the potential to be as dominant a player as JJ Watt, maybe disrespectful to JJ Watt, I don't know, but that's a hell of a comparison, because in the last 10 or 12 years, between Aaron Donald and JJ Watt, I can't think of another defensive lineman that was more dominant when he was on than that. So to say that he has that potential, that's saying a lot. And then I know it's lying week. It's smoke week. It's lying week. And everybody's trying to throw you off the one person who doesn't lie, the one place you go for information that doesn't bullshit you, is Vegas. Because Vegas, they are there to make money. I don't know if you noticed this, Harrison. I know you're really young, but the casinos, they get bigger, not smaller. You know why? Because Vegas wins. And guess who is the new betting favorite to be the number one overall pick? That is Trayvon Walker, not Aiden Hutchinson. So I don't care what anybody in the media says. Where's the money? The money is on Trayvon. That's all I need to hear. With me, you never know until the card's in.
True.
Well, shoot, you never know. So it's in years past. It's if you're the number one pick and it's plain as day, kind of like what everyone was saying with Aiden Hutchinson in the weeks leading up before draft week actually got here. The card would already be in most cases. Like we would know it's Aiden Hutchinson and that's it.
If it was a quarterback, it would already be in.
Exactly. And there's no elite quarterback in this draft, not in my opinion. I mean,
not in anybody's opinion.
Right here, right next to me on the screen, Dan Kiley, Falcon fan. I know you said, you may revoke your fanship card if they do something dumb here, but I mean, is there an elite quarterback on this draft board?
If they draft a quarterback at 8, I'm going to start a GoFundMe to replace my television because I'm going to rip it off the damn wall. I will lose my mind. That will be the angriest I've had. The only other time I've ever gotten angry at a draft is when they drafted Jamal Anderson, the defensive lineman from Arkansas. I was so pissed. I've never been that mad. I wasn't even that mad when they drafted TJ Duckett over Ed Reed. I wanted Ed Reed something fierce, and they got TJ Duckett, and I was like, I mean, I understand why they did it, whatever. Obviously we know who's the better player now. But if they draft a quarterback at 8, I'm going to lose my ever-loving mind. There is not a quarterback in here. And here's two things about that. Okay. One, you're putting expectations on a kid who can't reach those expectations. If you take a kid at 8, you're saying he's a first round quarterback at 8. You're expecting him to come in and be a player, a stud. I think the highest I've seen him evaluated on anybody's board is 22. On most averages, Malik Willis is rated at 33, and he's the highest rated quarterback over Pickett and all those other guys. So you're going to tell me you're taking a guy, let's just take the highest. 22 at 8, that's a definition of a reach. Okay? Now, if you want to move back into the first round and you don't have to sacrifice too much, I get it. Whatever. Go get your guy. But that first pick has to be bones. But anyway, we're getting off the subject. But we want to stay on the dogs in the NFL. But yes, if the Falcons take a quarterback at 8, I'm gonna break shit.
and going from Trayvon Walker, to me, number 1, number 2, he's gonna produce. He may not be the impact player from the first snap of training camp like Aiden Hutchinson will be, in my opinion, but he's gonna produce. He's gonna have a long career. I mean, all you got to do is turn on the tape. As our friend Brooks Austin says, shut up and grind the tape. By the way, one free shout out of the show, I promise. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. I believe I've memorized the link for him now because I've heard it so much. But that's where you can find him if you want some latest and the greatest information out there. Now, here's another one. This is from the same article on ESPN Plus. I'm not going to quote it because that dude, Todd McShay, does some terrific work. So if y'all want to go find it, it is over on ESPN Plus. Go get your subscription there and go find out what Todd McShay and Mel Kiper are talking about. To me, I prefer Todd McShay because I found out Mel Kiper apparently has a 16% accuracy when it comes to his mock drafts over the years. Jordan Davis apparently could go as high as number 9, which would be to Seattle. We're talking about a nose tackle going number 9 overall. That had me spinning for a bit. I didn't think he would be that high. Dan, I need your take on this.
See, Jordan Davis is one of those players where he could do. Yeah, I saw a criticism of him that he doesn't move people. It's like, come on. The guy's 6'6", 340 pounds. He runs as fast as he can. He's massive. So I know that everybody wants to go as high as possible. I get that. Okay. It's all about money, but as long as you're drafted in the first round, you have the ability to get that extra year. Okay. So you just really want to go in the first round, but where you go matters because we've seen so many guys get drafted to places that they just don't fit. And then their careers never get off the ground. They bust out. Maybe they get a second chance. Who knows if they do or not, right? So if Jordan Davis goes to a situation where it's just not a good fit and they don't use him right, or they don't have the guys around him, or whatever the case may be, that would be very difficult for him, right? And maybe he's a bust. But look at a team like the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens have made a career out of massive humans at defensive tackle, right? That's the style that they like to play. It's the personnel that a player like that fits their personnel. He would be in heaven playing on that defensive line. It's perfect fit, right? So maybe he does go higher, but for me, I don't really so much get into the Twitter wars where it's my guy went higher than your guy. I don't care. At the end of the day, I want all of these dogs to be successful because when they say dogs in the NFL, I want them to all be successful because the real beat on your chest moment is when your guys are in the NFL and they're dominating, right? Who gives a crap if they went number 2 if they don't do anything, right? Like Matthew Stafford went number 1 overall and he put up great numbers, but he didn't do anything. But now he has a Super Bowl. So that's good and positive for us, right? But the knock was always like, well, he's a dog. He doesn't know how to win a big game, right? Blah, blah, blah. So that died. But I would love to see him go to the right spot. So one of the notes that you had here was, does Nakobe Dean fall? Right? Well, all the mock drafts that I saw had him going to Philadelphia, which I guess would be okay. But who has the history of using undersized linebackers who are extremely smart? What was the first thing that Kirby ever said about Nakobe Dean? He said, I've never coached a football player as smart as he is. His very first spring practice, he was reacting to the ball faster than anybody else. Maybe he wasn't a finished product. We know that. And he got better as he developed. For sure, he developed. But the one thing that Kirby said about him was he is the most instinctual, smartest guy he's ever coached at the middle linebacker position. Who likes those guys? New England. Bill Belichick, that defense, his mind. I mean, look at the guys that he's had there. Guys who couldn't play anywhere else, right? The linebacker, the white dude, escaping my mind. Oh, my gosh. He's on ESPN now. Teddy Bruschi, right? Undersized. Not extremely fast. One of the biggest questions we have about Nakobe Dean is he won't run. So is he either hurt, we don't think he's hurt, or he's just really, really slow. So, again, fit. Where does he fit? I think if somebody like Nakobe Dean was able to use your word fall all the way down to New England, I think that would be a home run for New England. I think he would thrive in the system. And then all the other guys, plug and play. I want to see them all. Again, my thing is I want to see them all go into situations that are positive and fit their style of play. I don't care if they go 1, 2, or 3, as long as they go to some place where they can be successful. Because at the end of the day, for me, the chest bumping for me is my guys are in the NFL and they're dominating.
It's kind of like Azeez Ojulari. If my mind serves me correctly, he fell into the second round, fell into the lap of the Georgia 11 New York Giants, and got into the league. And I think he has he had 6 sacks last year as a rookie. Did what he was supposed to. I think he outplayed his draft pick. I mean, to me, he was a first-round lock, but apparently some knee injury from high school popped up on the radar of a few NFL teams that made him fall down the board. Just stupid stuff like that. So, like Dan says, we don't care where they go. As long as they produce once they get in the league, that's what it's all about. So, Dan, before we let this go, I wanted to get a quick prediction. I know we haven't done much studying into all these different mock drafts that every quote-unquote expert has out there. What is your predicted biggest surprise pick out of all these? Whether it's someone falls down the board lower than you thought they would go, or someone who goes up the board and goes much higher or higher than you originally expected?
This is easy. This is the easiest question you've ever asked me. It's George Pickens. Somebody is going to fall in love with George Pickens. I know he doesn't have the tape. The tape he does have is really damn good. Okay, so that's that. But I know he doesn't have the longevity that maybe some people would want or whatever. But his measurables are really good. What is he, 6'3" or something like that? Like he's big. He's a biggest receiver, can fly, absolutely fly. Ran faster than anybody else thought he would. What I like to say is catch radius, right? When the ball's in the air, he has a big catch radius where he has the ability to control his body and go make a play on the ball. More times than not, when the ball's in the air, you feel like he's coming down with it, right? Or he's going to have a really good chance. So I think somebody's going to fall in love with George Pickens. The initial mocks I saw on him were 3rd round, right? There's no way he lasted the 3rd round. Most updated mocks have him going somewhere in the middle of the 2nd round or early in the 2nd round. I would not be shocked if that run on wide receiver starts and somebody grabs him at the back end of the 1st round. That wouldn't shock me because they would want that extra year of control. That is the biggest move. Like, I think that will be the biggest guy who shoots up the board. I think a guy who has a lot of value and I think will get drafted fairly high would be Jamari Salyer, because I think people will love the fact that he can play all across the offensive line, pretty much any position on the offensive line. Because the good thing about offensive linemen is when you draft them is if you draft a quarterback and he can't play, you're shit out of luck and there's nothing else you can do with him, right? But if you draft a guy to play guard or tackle, he can't play tackle. He might could play guard, or he might play center. So you have other options to make sure that you don't waste that draft pick. So I think Salyer has extremely high value. And then the last one for me, there's so many names to go through, but I think the last one for me would be James Cook, because he doesn't have the wear and tear on his body that some of these guys have, like Bryce Hall, right? Is it Brees Hall or the running back for
Iowa State?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brees Hall.
Yeah, he's got a ton of mileage. The running back
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker has miles on those tires. And unfortunately, running backs have an expiration date, and they have an odometer. And the more miles on that odometer, that car takes a beating, and it just runs out. Well, James Cook was used sparingly, and he was used in situations where I don't recall him ever taking a massive shot, like a big shot. I don't ever recall him getting hit going, oh my gosh, I don't know if he's going to get up. I don't recall the wear and tear on his body. And he put up extremely good numbers. He's got the pedigree. He had some really big games for Georgia. Maybe he wasn't utilized in a type of way that would have put him on that pedestal with some of the other running backs. But I think at the end of the day, the NFL kind of appreciates that more than devalues that. So I think James Cook is going to get a look really high, and then just for fun, I think Jake Camarda is going to get drafted. I think he will get drafted. So to get a punter drafted, listen, there's like one a year, maybe two. I'm going to say like.
I mean, it's rare for a kicker even to get drafted,
right? Well, yeah.
I mean, even Rodrigo didn't get drafted. Which was, I mean, that shocked me because that was the one thing I had. I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely gonna get drafted. Didn't get drafted. Just absolutely shocking. But speaking of James Cook, PFF dropped a stat. I don't know exactly when, but it was sent to me today. Highest passer rating generated when targeted as a receiver since 2020. Number one's Bijan Robinson. Number two is James Cook. I mean, Bijan Robinson. Many people have him down as a Heisman favorite, early Heisman favorite going into next season. Obviously.
Did you just say since 2020?
Since 2020.
What kind of sample is that? Stetson Bennett has thrown the most interceptions since the spring game.
It seems like a cherry pick stat in favor of Texas because Bijan Robinson was a freshman in 2020. That's what that seems like. It is from the official PFF college account. I don't know which intern sent that out. We'll see.
All right.
But
so who's your pick? Who's your pick?
My pick, I mean, I agree with you on George Pickens. I mean, Green Bay's a name that seems to be picking up more and more buzz when it comes to George Pickens. I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers loses a guy with Devontae Adams. Not saying George Pickens is going to be the Devontae Adams replacement, like Green Bay Packer fans are hoping they can get somewhere in this draft. But, they bring similar height and stature. Catch radius, I would say, is around the same. Obviously Pickens isn't as adept as a route runner as Devontae Adams is. But I think for an Aaron Rodgers receiver, George Pickens fit. I mean, it's kind of like the old Tony Romo, Des Bryant type dynamic where Des Bryant always used to say, just throw it up 9 and let him go get it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is known for all these backyard passes, cross-body dots, 50 yards downfield. It wouldn't shock me if George Pickens goes, I think they have the 28th pick. I mean, that would be a beautiful landing home for him. He really loved playing with JT Daniels. Even had Carson Beck ripping him the ball at his pro day. I mean, that seems like a great fit. Aaron Rodgers at quarterback for George Pickens. That's my necessarily not surprise, but at this point, that's a beautiful home. That's a match made in heaven. Not as much so as Nakobe Dean to the Patriots. Dan, I mean, honestly, we wrote an article about that over at SI Dogs Daily, or I think it was yesterday. I mean, perfect home for the two. I mean, perfect marriage. I would love to see it happen for Nakobe because I think, he's going to absolutely shine in that. But for me, Pickens is my high riser. And one I just want to throw out there real quick since we didn't mention him is Lewis Cine. Now, I think he was a victim of somewhat of an overreaction by some of the media because he did run that 4.37. Some guys had him going up the board and potentially being the first safety taken off the board. Hot take, because
over Hamilton?
Over Hamilton.
Who's going to be a top 5 pick? Shut your
overreaction. Overreaction.
Shut the front door.
Overreaction. I mean, if Lewis Cine goes, I don't think 2 safeties go in round 1. I don't think that happens. But him going to the second round is a lot better than, I originally thought he would go. So, I mean, I don't know if it would be as much of a shock after a great pro day, but I think he's a high riser for me. And I mean, any of these three linebackers, Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, I mean, there's some that had Quay Walker going in the first round, slipping into the first round. So, I mean, wouldn't be a shock to me. I mean, at 6'4", 240 pounds, that's an NFL prototype right there for you. For all those people that are you have to be a certain height and have certain wingspan to play linebacker in the NFL. So I wanted to throw this in real quick before we wrap it up. Our man Evan Sanders, fun fact, if Trayvon Walker went number 1 overall, he would be UGA's 5th first overall pick. Before Stafford in 2009, the last number 1 pick was Harry Babcock in 1953. Evan, I got a little fun fact to counter it. Trayvon Walker, if he goes within the top 5, would be the highest Georgia defensive lineman selected since Jonathan Sullivan in 2003, who went 6 overall to the New Orleans Saints.
Ooh, well played.
So we'll see where that goes.
Where did Seymour and Stroud go? I thought they were top 5. Well, that was before, wasn't it? Maybe.
Yes, that was before. Because that was Seymour played under Donnan. If I remember correctly.
They both were the same defensive line. Imagine
both
that. Imagine having 2 Jordan Davises.
Absolutely insane. I mean, it's going to be a great draft day. I will be in Vegas for that, so I'm kind of excited.
So I know you weren't born when this happened, okay, because you're a baby, but there was a picture. So I played high school football with a guy named the running back that Jordan had, Milligan. Oh my gosh, it's Milligan. But anyway, he is the running back, and they had a picture. They were captains. It was Stroud on one side, him in the middle, and Seymour on the other side. Imagine Jordan Davis on the left, Jordan Davis on the right, and Stetson in the middle, and that's the picture. It was hilarious.
I mean, we're talking about some humongous dudes. I mean, Jordan Davis made Devontae Wyatt look small in that one photo that went around that caught the media's attention, this past November? You know what I'm talking about? That commercial they shot, that NIL deal? There's that one photo.
Oh, I don't know about that. I do know that on my way to work, there was a billboard on 85. It was a law office or something like that. It was like something about your great arms, or I don't know, but it's Jordan Davis with like in a wingspan position, and it's the whole billboard. Now, granted, I understand that it was like clipped to be his hands in the whole, but I was like, my God, that's what it must look like when you're trying to run the football.
It's like the often blown up photo of him wrapping up the Missouri. No, he's not even blown up. It's the Missouri running back getting wrapped up by Jordan Davis, and he's like, I mean, he's shrunk down.
He disappears.
Yeah, he disappears in his arms. I mean, absolutely insane. I can't wait to watch that dude play on Sundays because there's so many haters out there. They're talking about, oh, he doesn't have as many tackles or sacks as Will Anderson. Well, yeah, dummy. They play in different positions, and Will Anderson isn't playing next to 3 potential first-round picks on that defensive line.
Let's ask Nakobe Dean what he thinks about Jordan Davis. You know why? Because Nakobe Dean was able to operate in space and not have to worry about traffic because Jordan Davis completely eliminated all traffic and allowed him to operate. Ask any one of those linebackers, okay? That is the greatest thing to have is a space heater on that defensive line so those guys can't get to the second level. But is it fair to say, am I overreacting to say that the fan base, Jordan Davis might be one of the most beloved dogs to come through in a very, very long time? I hear more people. I hear more people just love on that man more than any other player in recent memory.
Not at all. I mean, I don't remember quite one like him. I mean, in recent memory that is as beloved as he is. I mean, who's the last one to have the personality like him? I mean, the guy is a goofball. Not goofball. That's not fair. He is his teammates. I think if I remember correctly, he's really funny off the field. Really serious on the field, knows when to turn it on and get serious and just makes plays. But you see him, conducts the red coat band at the end of their senior day. I forget who we played that. Charleston Southern, I think it was, when he conducted the band. Just as beloved as you can be. Here we go. Evan Sanders, Nick Chubb for him. JD99 may have been taken. I mean, yeah. I totally forgot about Nick Chubb.
I don't know how
say it.
I don't know how I didn't. Yeah, you're right. Chubb is right there. Chubb is right there. But
for a non-skill position player,
for sure.
To me, I think Jordan Davis is up there. I mean, it's hard, dude. And if I had to go out on a limb and predict, I mean, Brooks, I'm taking your pick because I know how highly you speak of him and what his personality is like. Kristen Miller seems like a kid, personality-wise, that could, get a lot of love if he plays to the expectations that many are putting on him. I feel like, he could be right up there, not maybe right up next to Jordan Davis and Nick Chubb, but, could get a lot of love in this fan base.
I'm just excited, man. Like, to go all the way back to the beginning of this show, I was excited to see the Bulldogs on the field. I was excited to see a relatively entertaining football game, because we've been without football for quite a while, and everybody's healthy. So I think they put on a good show. I think we had a good show.
Heck yeah. And I really like that. They had a good show, and we've had a good show. Thank you all for staying with us if you have. Guys, we appreciate y'all in the comments. Another great comment section.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, share. Please help us grow the podcast. We had a couple of you guys in here watching. We really, really appreciate it. Evan and DDG, Robert, we appreciate you guys being in here and keeping the comments moving along. But please like and subscribe, share. Help get it out. And if you want to give us some feedback, give us some feedback. We're not so full of ourselves that we think we're great. I mean, I know there's a lot of things that I could do better. So, I'm on Twitter. It's at Dan Kiley 3 on Twitter, and hit me up if you let me know.
Got the bottom ticker running below. Turned it off for this show to make sure I don't have another incident where I lag mid-sentence.
We're forgetting Rod.
Sorry, Rod. Glad Rod's with us. Shout out to Rod for being with us, guys. I mean, all of you guys that were in the comments, thank you all for joining us today. Make sure to get down in the comment section below if you're watching on tape delay, as I may call it. Guys, that's Dan Kiley. Make sure you follow him, like he said, on Twitter at Dan Kiley 3. Follow me at @TopDog_blogs. I need to get a new sometime.
Yes, soon. You do.
I don't know. I think I've already used it once. I may have to pay Twitter some money, but maybe Elon Musk, if you're listening, maybe send me a free reset on the @ button. If you know, you know. But guys, thank you for joining us. That was episode 39 of the Top Dog Talk podcast. That's Dan Kiley. I'm Harrison Reno. We'll see you again next week. Talk some post-draft recap and what is Dan Kiley angry about now?
Right. Good night.